Skyrim has recently given birth to a new level of insane animation mods, causing what many have coined Skyrim modding's animation revolution. And so, coming up towards the very end of this year, I've decided that there would be no better time to break it all down for you and show off all of the best animation mods of the past 2-ish years. Now, Skyrim modding has come a long way in the past 11 years, but there was a specific deluge of cascading animation mods that began around 2021. And all of the mods in this video kind of all spiraled from there. So why was 2021 so revolutionary for Skyrim's animation scene? For starters, the development of a new animation engine was created by the name of Nemesis. Another revolutionary tool was created as a result called Dynamic Animation Replacer, which gave birth to a multitude of amazing new mods. Distar finally found some friends to him make combat animations. Oh, and Everglaid existed. And now, coming up on 2023, Skyrim's animations seem to have unlimited possibilities, from unlocking third-person movement in combat and finally while sprinting, to being able to see your character munch down on every single type of food in the game, or now even climbing up ladders, which even Bethesda are yet to implement. So sit back and buckle up, because today I'm going to show you all of the amazing animation mods that have been produced over the past 2 years. And as always, there is already an accompanying guide over on Patreon for those who need a step-by-step walkthrough of how to install each mod. But without further ado, I present to you the best animation mods of the past 2 years.
I choose this as our goal.
Creatures of none.
All men are kings. If he breeds, he is sin.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
Your Samson of room, all right? Bone bird.
I would like to give a massive thanks to War Thunder for sponsoring this video. War Thunder is one of the most comprehensive vehicle combat games ever made. You can play as more than 2,000 different tanks, planes, helicopters and ships in dynamic combined arms PvP battles. Every vehicle is incredibly detailed and modelled down to their individual components, offering a highly immersive combat experience. War Thunder's collection of vehicles goes back over 100 years, ranging from the 1920s to the present day. There are incredible graphics at 4K resolution, authentic sound effects and beautiful music, creating an atmosphere to fully immerse yourself in. Do check out the link in the description to get a free bonus pack that you can play on PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 4 and 5. Huge thanks to War Thunder for supporting the channel, and without further ado, let's get into the video. So this video is going to have a bunch of amazing mods that you may have not known existed, or that are new releases. And just to be clear, they're in no real particular order, they're just all great. So let's start with one of the much newer mods that was recently released, which I just had to put at the start of this video because it genuinely really impressed me when I saw it. And that's Read the Room Animated Helmet Management. This mod does something which I actually thought I'd never see in Skyrim, which is fully animated helmet removal, where your character can take off his helm and holster it to his belt. Not only does it work when walking, but it's seamlessly integrated into all movement types, meaning you can just run, hit a hotkey and remove your helmet in whatever situation. Additionally, the mod also comes with an optional auto-equip system built in, which takes into consideration what combat state you're currently in, meaning if you're around friendly NPCs or roaming the wilds, you'll stay open-helmed. But if you approach an enemy camp or get into combat, you can automatically whip out the helmet without having to press anything at all. Next is a similar mod, but more to fill in the gaps with the rest of the equipment your player can wear. And that means adding in short animations for general equipping armor actions in the form of a mod named Immersive Equipping Animations, which adds new animations that play after equipping boots, gauntlets, armor, and even helmets or hats. And honestly, this is just one of those mods, like many you'll see in this video, that just adds an extra nice touch to certain actions that before were just imaginary, but now your character will actually do things in accordance to the actions you perform. And yes, both Read the Room and Immersive Equipping Animations can be used together. Next up, we're going to take a look at 3 mods, all created by one of the people who helped inspire this new generation of animation mods. And that's of course, Everglaid, the author behind Conditional Idols, EVG Animation Variance and EVG Animated Traversal. 3 mods which each at the time of their release were pretty revolutionary for what was possible in Skyrim. We'll start back in March of 2020, with the release of her first big mod, Conditional Idols, which utilised the at the time new possibilities created by Dynamic Animation Replacer in order to apply free-flowing animations to your character based upon certain conditions in your game. And so let's go through each and give you an idea of what kind of things this mod adds. When your character is fatigued below 50% stamina, they will lightly breathe to catch their breath, but if they are even more tired below 25% stamina, they will heavily breathe while idling. Similarly, if your character is injured in some way, they will clutch their wound whenever they're not in combat. And lastly, regarding your magicka, if that falls below 30%, they will get a bit of a headache. Next, for weather. In rainy situations, if a shield is equipped, your player will use it as cover whenever possible. If you're caught out in the snow or chilling weather, you will warm your arms as a result. And finally, if you are unclothed for whatever reason, you'll attempt to cover yourself. And you'll occasionally stretch after receiving the well-rested bonus from sleeping in a bed. But that's only her first mod. EVG Animation Variance was Everglaid's second big release, which utilised DAR further by adding random variation animations to many actions and NPC types in the game. The first being the way you hold a torch, which has 3 variations, each slightly different to make it seem less robotic every time you pull one out. Next is NPCs. Old people now have walk and idle animations to be more hunched over and look more old, I guess. Children have more playful running animations that differ from adult NPCs. Some younger people have slightly different walk styles based on their personality. Guards will have some more guardly idles. And finally, it utilises 2 variants for injured NPCs, and more comfortable ascend animations if you have over 150 magicka points. And lastly, if you thought her first 2 mods were impressive, then came EVG Animated Traversal, a mod which finally added actual climbing and dungeon crawling mechanics to the game, allowing certain areas to be marked with interact points, which when activated will have your player perform whatever action is necessary to traverse that path. I mean, for starters, you can now crawl underneath the lower entryways, or roll through tight spaces and drop down the other side, climb up onto ledges, which is one of the more useful features. You can now even vault over certain obstacles, which is very satisfying. And there's even one-way vaulting to drop down to lower areas. And finally, you can now climb ladders, which on its own could make this mod worth it. And these 3 mods are just masterclasses in making incredible features for a game that fits seamlessly into the existing systems. I mean, seriously, if Bethesda were just like, yeah, Everglade, you can just do all of that for TES 6 while we make the rest of the game, these types of features would be revered as those incredible details that make a AAA game feel like a AAA game. But we're only really scratching the surface of all the mods in this video. Skyrim has a bunch of actions that you just kind of do in menus. You know, eating ingredients, applying poisons, drinking potions. Pretty much anything consumable is typically just a menu item which you click and it does the intended thing. But what if you could actually see these actions? Animated Ingredients is our first mod, which aims to achieve this visualization to some degree by having a short animation of eating whichever ingredient you have consumed in your inventory, with the correct models to match, but not all ingredients are as pleasant. If you consume something rather foul like a human heart, or giant's toe, or really anything particularly nasty looking, then your character will likely reject accordingly, as they should, by coughing up their guts, because eating a giant's toe is actually foul. Next is another mod by the same author, which aims to follow suit by visualizing your preparation and treatment of your weapons, for those times when you want to give your enemies an extra little stink. Animated Poison works on every single poison type, playing an animation of lacing your equipped weapon as and when you apply poison to it. And just like the ingredients, depending on which type of poison you apply will depend on which bottle is used in the animation. And it's details like this that the author doesn't have to do but makes such a big difference in your immersion. And as you might have guessed, he's made the same mod for potions too, fittingly named Animated Potions, which applies the same format to all of your potion types in the game, fully animating you drinking them anytime you consume one. And just like the poisons and ingredients, the model is reflective of the actual potion you drink. And all of these mods work in full movement to avoid interrupting the player's gameplay. You can run and chug a potion, eat a bee on the fly, or feast on some fungi as you sprint to your next destination. And overall, these mods are just excellent non-intrusive additions to existing systems in the game. Oh, and just being honest here, I made this whole next scene to introduce the next mod and then realised I'd have to fill it with useless commentary, which turned out to essentially just be me stalling you for 30 seconds before we actually get into the mod. So I'll just be back when we actually get to the showcase.
Visit to Dragon's Reach. Our stores of meat, wine, and grain are splendid. Perhaps I can assist you.
Ha! You'll make perfect pit fodder. Get out of my sight. But you're known to me now, scum.
Oh, okay, it's time for me to come back. Like, what was I meant to say over that part anyway, let's be honest. And animated eating with sounds aims to do exactly that. This mod is incredibly vast, covering, well, every single type of food in the game, each coming with their own animations and unique sounds. And when I say there's a lot, I mean you can eat entire pies in your hands, munch on some baked potatoes, scoff down entire loaves of bread, or even just eat an entire head of cabbage. Or for more civilized folk, when seated at a table, you can whip out your knife and fork and dine like less of a savage. This is mainly on most cooked meats and food that you might expect to serve for dinner. Not only is food covered, but drinks too, popping the cork out of mead bottles and necking them in one gulp, or whipping out your spoon and enjoying some tasty soup. Whatever food item you can imagine, this mod will goddamn let you watch yourself eat it. And goddamn will you eat, because consuming food in Skyrim has never been so immersive. And you may think, oh wow, this mod is pretty neat, they've covered a lot. But what if I was to tell you the different food types was not all of the features? There is also full support for all movement types, such as riding a horse, whether it's walking or galloping, full support for whether you're walking or running, or sitting by a campfire and drinking soup to a moonlit sky. Literally wherever you are, you can be sure you can watch yourself eat. And this, included with the other animated poisons, potions, and ingredients, pretty much covers like most consumables in the game. Next, in this section of the video, we're going to take a look at a bunch of mods aimed towards enhancing various aspects of NPC interaction. And we're beginning with a newer mod that targets the spookier side of the follower pool. Reanimated NPC Animations is a mod that enhances not only the feel of playing as a necromancer, but also the tone of fighting against one. Now, when an NPC is risen from the dead, whether by your hand or the hand of an enemy, they will now be cursed with the new undead idol and movement set. Not only do they have new idols, but their running is now reminiscent of an undead creature risen from the grave. And they even have new walking animations too, with their arms swinging low and their backs hunched over, reminiscent of like a White Walker from Game of Thrones, or really any undead zombie you see in media. And it really just sells that undead factor to those NPCs, and honestly is a great touch that you see more often than you would expect, because a lot of enemies reanimate corpses to fight against you. But sticking on the topic of NPCs, moving away from the undead, we have a series of mods created by an author to overhaul different animation aspects of regular citizens you might encounter. And that means changing up the way they converse with you in dialogue all the way down to the way they act in certain areas, such as taverns or carriage drivers for example. So let's start with the mods NPC Animation Remix and Gesture Animation Remix. Two mods which essentially build off each other, so I'm showing them at once. And what they do is provide NPCs with more variable dialogue animations to liven up conversations with them, and give them more personality depending on who they are and their status in the world. And personally, I just think these are really well made and might as well have been vanilla idols if I didn't know it was a mod. And speaking of vanilla idols, it also utilises them more frequently too, in order to not only add new animations, but make sure the existing ones are made use of. And similarly to this mod is Immersive Folded Hands, which allows more NPCs to fold their hands, and also adds new variants to their idol list for certain NPC types to use. And that, along with the animation remixes, completely make NPCs more lively. And fittingly, next is some smaller mods like Lively Cart Driver Animation Replacer, to make them not just sit there in one sitting animation for the rest of time. Conditional Tavern Cheering is a mod which utilizes vanilla idols and adds new ones for NPCs to use in taverns. Lively Children is a similar mod to the animation remix mods, but specifically targeting child NPCs, to make them a little more animated during dialogue and less like little android kids. And finally is the new Praying Animations mod, to give those praying NPCs a bit more flair and substance, because why not? So we have just covered a bunch of mods to overhaul the NPC animations, but what about your player? Well, this next section is going to focus on movement, starting with Goeto animations, specifically the walk and run animations. For now, we'll target the new male walking animations, which add a little more purpose to your step. But where this mod really shines is the running animations, which can also be found for females too. Not only replacing their walking animations with new ones, but changing their running animations to be more animated and smooth, I guess? And the same goes for the sprint animations, which just kind of look like you're putting more effort into it and just a little more pleasant and fun to utilize compared to the 11-year-old animations we're used to. But just walking and running is not the only movement we can enhance. Jump Behavior Overhaul is a mod which adds much smoother jump animations along with better landing variants, getting rid of the kind of weird vanilla frog jump and replacing it with a better, more realistic sort of long jump animation, replacing the vanilla land animation with one that actually reflects the height at which you jumped. Vanguard Sneak is so far my favourite sneak idle animation, replacing the squat with kind of a kneel perch and lowering your body down while moving, rather than the stiff vanilla movement. But now we've got our initial movement system down, let's switch to our action animations, starting with the mod Tools Not Weapons, which changes the idles of pickaxes and woodcutter axes to rest on your shoulder and makes you actually use the tool rather than swinging it like a sword. And to replace the actual real mining animation, we have more powerful mining animation to give your character and NPCs more strength to their swing. And finally, Leaps of Faith, which adds various new dive locations all around the map in order for your player to take the plunge and dive from extreme heights into water below. And this is just hands down one of my favourite little mods to add to every playthrough, to add more fun and substance to exploring and traversing the world. Now we have one last big mod to really tie our animations together for this video. But before we do that, I said in a previous video I need to start doing this more often, so here it is. Subscribe. The final mod of this video is Immersive Interactions, a kinda huge mod that will affect your animated experience in pretty much all aspects of your game, by adding an abundance of new interactive actions to performing the different day-to-day tasks you'll get up to in each playthrough. And I mean, there are a lot of different features added by this mod to the point where I basically did a whole video covering it. So in this video I'm going to go over a selection of the main stuff plus some that are notably cool. So let's take a look at some of the core features that Immersive Interactions has to offer to your game, on top of all the other mods in this video. First off, now when you go to loot containers such as chests, your character will actively crouch down to open the container. And even cooler, if you have to pick a lock, the animation will change to show you actually picking it, which is just a great touch of immersion to this task you will assumingly be doing quite a lot throughout your playthrough. But let's take a look over the different interactions that are performed when looting things that aren't conveniently placed in a box. If you want to play a seasoned hunter who stalks their prey and harvests their pelts, then Immersive Interaction takes that into account, because when looting animal carcasses, you will actually pull out a knife and perform a sort of skinning animation before opening its loot menu. But thankfully that does not apply to when you are looting other types of people or creatures, because regular carcasses or corpses when looted just have you crouch down rather than skinning every bandit you slay in battle. Next is the harvesting of various plants and crops found across the game world, where you will now also crouch down and bend over to pick up your ingredient or food type, which works best when you're just out grabbing different ingredients and actually allows you to roleplay a herbalist with more accuracy. But that is not the only scenarios where looting is animated. because as well as harvesting ingredients, you also have animated grab animations for just regular loot picked up across the world, with varying animations depending on the height of the item you pick up. And even simple stuff like this can really help to make a playthrough feel more grounded and realistic to play. And the mod also comes with certain special interactions such as holding interact on wood piles to harvest from them. Additionally, there are entire new features added to the mod, some that are kind of secret too, such as holding interact on a training dummy will have your player momentarily train against the target, and once done, apply a bonus stat boost for unlimited time. And now we're moving on to my personal favourite additions added by this mod. The tomb raiding animations, which adds new interactions to the puzzle pieces found in Nordic tombs, where you'll actually physically grab onto the rotating discs and spin them yourself, which is one of the coolest little additions I've ever seen in a mod. You can also actually place the claw in the slot, and the tomb interactions don't even end there. You can actually grab onto and rotate the spinning puzzle pillars, physically pull levers that are on the ground, and interact with chains when activated, and even lift the bars on doors. Immersive Interactions is a pretty phenomenal mod that does a whole bunch of amazing things for gameplay in your playthrough, from pickpocketing nobles to milking cows on your farm. There's so much that is now animated in this mod that you'll have to just explore for yourself and be pleasantly surprised by how many things this mod affects. And I can confidently say it's one of my personal favourite mods to have ever been made. And that, combined with all of the other mods in this video, you can finally have a full animated experience to really feel immersed in your game. And for those wondering, don't you worry, combat is a huge part of animation modding, and I will have an entire new video on combat in the coming weeks. But for now, that's going to be it for this video. For those that are worried about how hard it is to set up any of these, they're mostly pretty simple, so you should be fine. But if you do need a little help, I've provided a guide on Patreon, which is already live alongside this video, so you can follow that if you need help in being sure you've done everything correctly. Also, be sure to check out our sponsor for this video, War Thunder. I only upload a few times a month, so our sponsors are super instrumental in allowing me to continue to make these videos. You can play War Thunder now on PC, Xbox Series X and S, and PlayStation 4 and 5. Using my link in the description, and get a large free bonus pack including multiple premium vehicles, a premium account, boosters and much more. Thank you to them once again, and that's all I have for you today. Join the Discord, follow my socials, etc, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care.